What's that? Can I close out what? That would be down here.
Good morning. We will begin in about 11 minutes, so just sit tight. Uh, this is a new microphone for me, so could you type in the chat as to whether my sound is good?
Good morning, Mary. I hear you just fine.
Ah, good, thank you. We got these new cordless headsets.
Okay, yes, that's what I
Yeah,
have. I love it.
okay, well, it's going to take a little getting used to. I feel like I'm talking in a well, so
Oh, when it covers up your ears, yeah.
mhm, yeah,
You'll
but
learn
it
to
is it is
love it
nice
because
and
you can get up
cushy.
and walk around and
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
stand up and get some steps in. You're not attached by a
Right.
cord to the computer anymore. So, yes.
Thank you all for typing in the chat. I appreciate that.
Yes, good morning, everybody.
Then maybe you should take it.
Thank you for joining us. We will begin in about 7 minutes. In the meantime, if you would please turn your camera off and mute your microphone so that we all can experience good bandwidth this morning. Good morning, everyone. We will begin in about 3 minutes. So I was just looking at this first slide and oh my goodness, isn't that gorgeous? I noticed this morning in my local grocer flyer that pomegranates are on sale. And I see there's a pomegranate in that picture. So it is getting to be that time of year. Good morning. I have straight up 10 o'clock Central Time, and so it's time for us to begin. Thank you all for joining us this morning, and welcome to our second Managing Diabetes in a Modern World webinar series. We are the University of Illinois Extension, and we're glad that you've joined us this morning. Before we start, we do ask that you make sure your microphone is muted to prevent any background noise during the presentation. And please turn off your camera because we have found that if cameras are on, that compromises the bandwidth, and everyone wants to take full advantage of this presentation. So thank you for doing that. All of our webinars are being recorded, and this is, as we said, number 2 in a series. And if you would like, or you want to share with a friend who didn't get to attend, the webinars will be available on the website go.illinois.edu/nutritionwell. And I'll type that in the chat box here in a minute. We do encourage, speaking of the chat box, we encourage you to ask questions by typing them in the chat box, and Susan will get to those answers when we complete the program. We do ask that please refrain from answering one another's questions in the chat box. If you want to share at the end verbally, that's great if we have time. But really, this is Susan's webinar, and she's done the research, so we would like to defer to her when it comes time to answer the questions. So Choose It, Count It, Eat It was created by Susan Glassman, peer reviewed by Diane Reinhold. And I'm telling you, I took a look at this earlier, and this is a fantastic webinar. You are in for some really good information. Next slide.
There we go.
All right. So the University of Illinois Extension is the flagship outreach effort of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And we offer evidence-based educational programs to the residents of Illinois in all 102 counties and beyond. I am Mary Liz Wright, and I am a nutrition wellness educator for U of I Extension. My area that I cover is over on the far eastern, central eastern part of Illinois, there where the arrow is drawn to Edgar, Clark, and Crawford counties. And I'd like to introduce our presenter today, Susan Glassman. Susan has been with the University of Illinois Extension for 17 years. She holds a master's degree in health education and administration and a bachelor's in food and nutrition with a specialization in dietetics from Southern Illinois University at Carbondale. She currently serves Bureau, LaSalle, Marshall, and Putnam counties. Her expertise is in general nutrition, food safety, and chronic disease management. And so I would like to introduce to you Susan Glassman for Choose It, Count It, Eat It.
Thank you, Mary Liz. I appreciate that nice introduction, and welcome to everybody. We are glad you're here with us this morning for our second session in our webinar series. And today we are literally going to talk about how to choose it, count it, and eat it. And remember, last week, Mary Liz gave us the perfect analogy to describe managing a chronic disease. We all bought a ticket to go to Europe, and we landed in Holland. And so here we are in Holland. What you once ate may be much different, and maybe you're trying to pull all the pieces together. Today, we will discuss how to plan meals using healthy eating options and look at the plate method. We'll learn how to count carbohydrates and plan for dining out. We want you to feel confident about what you eat and to be nourished and enjoy eating. And research shows that planning ahead and cooking yourself, keeping account, and eating a balanced diet will make a big difference in managing diabetes and blood glucose levels. Whether you cook at home or for yourself or a larger group, plan ahead. It helps us improve our food choices and avoid grazing or going to the drive-thru. So today you're going to take away research-based information and resources, excuse me, to help you stick to your meal plan. And throughout the presentation, we've referenced the American Diabetes Association, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, USDA Choose My Plate, and the Dietary Guidelines for Americans. Don't worry about taking notes because you're going to receive a handout with all this information that we're going to cover today. So when we talk about a meal plan, remember there is no one single plan. We know that one size does not fit all. Meal plans are individual and they're based on your treatment goals. They include medical concerns and emphasize healthy weight, which may include some weight goals. All meal plans will emphasize a choice of healthy eating options and take into account culture and tradition and personal food preferences that are all important considerations. Education should be provided by a registered dietitian or a certified diabetes educator. When we look at type 2 diabetes, we have found that type 2 diabetes responds well to lifestyle modification. In fact, 90 to 95% of type 2 diabetes responds well to some simple changes. Last week, we talked about SMART goals, and they can help you alter some long-term habits. We also will talk about how to follow a healthy diet and get regular exercise. And you may need to reduce calories to adjust weight. The recommendation is to start out by reducing weight by 5 to 7%. To give you an example, if you weigh 200 pounds, that would be losing about 10 to 14 pounds. And that makes a big difference in diabetes markers. In 2020, statistics show that 34.2 million people of all ages, 10.5% of the US population has been diagnosed with diabetes. 89% are overweight or have obesity, and 38% are physically inactive, and that was achieving 10 minutes or less of activity per day. So we're going to talk about how to choose it. So how do you choose what to do? How do you choose your healthy eating option? There are a lot of meal planning options, and we picked 4 to highlight today. The Mediterranean diet, the DASH diet, which is the dietary approaches to stop hypertension, the plate method, and carbohydrate counting. This comes from, excuse me, this comes from research from the American Diabetes Association and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The goal is to stick to the plan, to stay on track and keep accountable. This is where good support makes a difference. So you may want to share with someone that you're making changes to be more healthy and think of ways to set yourself up for success. The first healthy eating option that I'll cover is the Mediterranean diet. And researchers have been looking at this diet for many years. It goes back to the 1940s to the Mediterranean, where they learned that people were living longer, healthier lives with less cardiovascular disease. It was compared to the US population. And this diet was ranked #1 out of 41 diets by the US News and World Report. This diet is easy to follow, and it's tailored after longevity in life. It provides both short-term and long-term weight loss. It's nutritionally complete and safe. The foundation is a healthy, active lifestyle, and it emphasizes vegetables and fruits with lean animal protein and plant protein. It emphasizes whole grains, and it swaps out butter and margarines for olive oil and limits red meats and sweets, but includes red wine. I wanted to give you an example of what the Mediterranean diet would look like if you put it together on a plate for a meal. And you can see that it's very colorful. There's lots of different options here. If we look up towards the top, you can see that a quarter of the plate is for grains, and it can be beans that are included, legumes, and different starches. You can add some fresh fruit for nice vitamins and color. You can add some nuts and a little bit of wine. And don't forget to get lots of water. You can pick some lean protein. So down in the bottom quadrant is a piece of salmon. And they actually recommend having fish or seafood twice a week on the Mediterranean diet. Other days you can pick leaner cuts of beef and pork and add eggs and cheese in moderation. You're going to have lots of veggies, 3 to 4 servings a day. And then you're going to pick that healthy olive oil for good heart health. When we look at this plate, we don't see a lot of processed foods or processed meats, not a lot of sugary things or high calorie beverages. It's low in salt and salty foods. It's pretty much food in its natural form. And some food examples I put together for you would be hummus, spinach, salmon, feta cheese, greens. So you could do some red leafy lettuce or green leafy lettuce or some arugula, some yogurt, whole grains. You can add eggs like hard-boiled eggs and red wine. How's it look to you? Good? The other healthy eating option is called the DASH eating plan. And again, that's for dietary approaches to stop hypertension. This also was looked at by US News and World Report and ranked number 2 as best diets in 2020. This takes into the concept that what we eat affects our chances of getting high blood pressure. And a healthy eating plan can both reduce the risk of developing high blood pressure and lower a blood pressure that's already too high. And this is where the DASH eating plan comes in. If you have a blood pressure level of 140/90 or higher, that's considered high blood pressure. And about 2/3 of people aged 65 and older have high blood pressure. Being overweight and obese increases our risk of developing high blood pressure, and blood pressure rises as body weight increases. So using this healthy eating plan can reduce the risk of developing high blood pressure and lower blood pressure that's already high. The DASH eating plan includes a lot of delicious foods. It includes whole grains and vegetables, fruits, low-fat dairy, nuts, seeds, and legumes, lean meats and poultry and fish. It limits fats and oils, red meat, sweets, and foods with added sugar and sugar-sweetened beverages. The DASH diet is low in sodium and high in protein and fiber. The next healthy eating plan is called the plate method. And this one's very easy once you learn how to put it all together. And I'm going to help you with that today. So if you were in class with me, I would give you all a regular size paper plate. And I would have you divide your plate into 3 sections. And so 1/2 of the plate would be non-starchy vegetables. And then you would divide the other half into 1 section of carbohydrate foods and 1 section of protein foods. And that's the basis for the plate method. It's very easy. You can use it anywhere. Also remember to add in water or 0-calorie beverages. And keep your plate full but remember to keep proper servings in mind. So the plate method, we're gonna split our plate and we're going to add the proper servings, and we're not gonna go upward, right? So we're gonna keep it at proper servings. The first section I'll cover is non-starchy vegetables. And remember, that's half your plate. These are foods that are low in carbohydrates, they're high in vitamins and minerals, they're high in fiber. It's part of your healthy diet, and it can include a large selection: asparagus, broccoli, carrots, celery, mushrooms, green beans, lettuce, spinach, zucchini, spaghetti squash, and tomatoes. And so you can have a lot of fun with trying new vegetables and putting vegetable combinations together to fill up half of your plate. A quarter of your plate would be your protein foods. And that's focusing on lean protein. So protein foods we can do plant-based and animal proteins. And foods high in protein would include chicken, turkey, eggs, cottage cheese or cheeses, fish, lean beef, and lean pork. And then adding in our plant proteins, you could try legumes or lentils or even hummus. And this gives us plenty of protein. It monitors our carbohydrates and it makes up a quarter of our plate. And remember that lean proteins are lower in fat and saturated fat and makes them a healthy choice. This helps to decrease the risk of heart disease. One thing to note is plant proteins are higher in carbohydrates. So you do have to keep that in mind when planning them in. And then we come to our section of our carbohydrate foods, and this is a quarter of the plate. This may be part of the biggest change with putting your plate together. We're used to having a big serving of carbohydrate foods, and so you have to get used to this. This is adding extra fiber to your diet, and it's focusing on whole grains, but it also includes fruits and milks. And so you have to count that all into this section of your plate. These are foods that are higher in carbohydrates, and they have the greatest effect on blood sugar. And so limiting your portion of carbohydrates to 1/4 your plate can help keep blood sugars from rising too high after meals. These include foods like brown rice and oatmeal and popcorn, or bread or peas, green peas, parsnips and potato and pumpkin, legumes, and then fried and dried fruit, fruit and dried fruit, milk and yogurt, and milk substitutes. Always remember to add in water or a 0-calorie beverage to your meal. Some of the examples we put were you can choose unsweetened teas or coffee, try sparkling water or club soda. You can do flavored waters or diet sodas and diet drinks. Remember, water is the best 0-calorie beverage. And I added that I like to flavor my water. I love a slice of cucumber in it or some lemon and some ice and have it nice and cold and crispy. And those flavorings really help. So what happens when we go out or we make something that combines a lot of foods together? And that's where we're going to talk about the combination foods. So things like pizza and soup and casseroles and sandwiches might be a little harder to put together, right? How does that fit onto the plate? So you're going to have to kind of think and section it out. And what we found is that you're going to identify these foods just as they would fit on your plate. So you're going to deconstruct them. For example, a slice of pizza, the crust would be the carbohydrate, the cheese and meats would be your protein foods, Tomato sauce and veggies would be non-starchy vegetables. And then we added that with a half a plate of salad. So when we think about that, we really covered our plate. We have the crust for the carbohydrates, we have the cheese for the protein, and then we have our vegetables here. The thing that we have to be careful of is notice there's 2 little slices of pizza that fit into that 9-inch plate, right? So we can't add more. And I said going upward, you want to make sure that you keep those proper portions on the plate. So stick to 1 to 2 slices and serve with a side salad. And then half our meal is our non-starchy vegetables. So now we're going to talk about how to count it. And we're going to talk about carbohydrate counting. And counting carbohydrates or carbs keeps track of carbs in all of our meals, our snacks, and our drinks. And this can help match with your activity level and medicines to the food that you're going to eat. You're going to count carbohydrates to manage blood sugar. This is going to help us to stay healthier longer, to feel better. It improves quality of life. It helps to delay diabetes complications like kidney disease, eye disease, heart disease, and stroke. And you can try counting carbohydrates. They recommend you distribute it across all meals and snacks. And you keep a count of total grams of carbohydrates eaten. The only way that we're going to know where the carbohydrates are is to read the food labels and determine that carbohydrate content. If you go on the American Diabetes Association website, you can do a search and pull up the Diabetes Food Hub. And this will help you. They have a lot of recipes that you can save, and you can plan meals with the amount of carbohydrates that you have for each meal. And you also can create a shopping list on the Diabetes Food Hub. So check it out. It's on the website for the American Diabetes Association. So we're going to dive into carbohydrates. So carbs. When you eat carbs, your body breaks them down into simple sugars. These are absorbed in your bloodstream, and the sugar level rises in your body. Your pancreas releases the hormone insulin, and insulin moves the sugar from the blood into the cells where it's used as a source of energy. This process goes very fast when we're eating simple sugars. These are sugar sweetened foods or high calorie foods. And what happens is you don't get a long sustain of feeling full. You're more likely to feel hungry again soon. So carbohydrates we'll talk about today, both simple and complex carbohydrates. And remember, it's the difference of the carbohydrate. It's the type of carbohydrate that makes the difference. We want to consume carbohydrates in their most natural form. And this is going to help us sustain blood glucose levels from becoming too high or too low. When it comes to carbohydrates, follow these recommendations from the CDC. Limit foods that are high in processed, refined, simple sugars. They provide calories, but very little nutrition. Choose more sources of complex carbohydrates and enjoy healthy nutrients by eating more fruits and vegetables. And then focus on whole grains. So rice and bread and cereals, you can add the legumes, lentils, and dried peas. So let's take a peek at simple and complex carbohydrate sources. So simple carbohydrates contain foods a lot of times that are highly processed and enter the bloodstream quickly. They can cause spikes in blood glucose, and these are the sugars, these are the carbs that are hidden in our food. So I have a lot of pictures up here of food for you to look at. Some are natural, some are processed. Remember, some simple carbs are natural, like honey, milk has lactose, which is the natural sugar, and fruit has fructose, which is natural sugar. But those are still foods that are digested quickly for quick energy. And then we go a step further with our simple carbs to the ones that are processed. It could be candy or cookies, or those delicious coffee drinks. It could be packaged foods or foods we know that they've added sugar to. Simple carbohydrates are digested quickly. They send a big burst of glucose into your bloodstream. You may feel a little rush of energy when you eat something high in sugar, but then it's followed by a crash of fatigue, and that burst of energy is suddenly depleted. Remember, simple sugars are found in these foods, like white sugar that you find in your sugar bowl. They provide calories, but they lack vitamins and minerals and fiber. These foods also can lead us to weight gain. But not all simple sugars are alike. So remember the difference between those natural simple sugars and processed. And now we're going to talk about complex carbs. And these are carbohydrates that contain a lot of fiber. And that fiber leads to digesting more slowly to enter into the bloodstream slowly. Complex carbs, which you might also hear people refer to them as starches, they include whole wheat and oats and other grains. They can include vegetables like corn and potatoes, dried beans, lentils, and peas. But you can see that these complex carbs are all in natural form, right? There's been nothing added here. They're giving us a slow and steady release of glucose into the bloodstream, and they offer a lot of vitamins and minerals and fiber. Fiber helps us feel full, so you're less likely to overeat these foods. And that explains why you feel full longer after eating a bowl of oatmeal compared to a bowl of sugary candy. And that leads us to the path to talk about dietary fiber. And we want to get a lot of dietary fiber into our meal plans. Dietary fiber is plant based and it aids in digestion, but remember, it's not necessarily digested. It keeps us full longer and it includes sources of soluble and insoluble sugars. Simple sugars and complex carbs raise our blood sugar, but fiber does not. We all need to eat more fiber. The CDC um, averages Americans eat 15 grams of fiber per day. Only 3% of people reach the goal of 25 to 38 grams of fiber per day. And you're going to need, if you're going to eat more fiber, remember to increase fiber slowly, to decrease gastric distress, and to balance microbiome. So we'll look at soluble fiber. And this is fiber that's not digested by the body. It aids, oh, I'm sorry, dietary fiber is not digested by the body, but soluble fiber aids in maintaining healthy cholesterol levels. And what it does is it increases the viscosity or thickness of our intestinal contents after we digest it. This slows carbohydrate digestion and glucose absorption. So you can kind of think of a bowl of oatmeal that when we make it, it's kind of liquidy, but after it sits for a while, the thickness increases. And that's the same that it does through our digestive system. It dissolves in liquid, but it slows things down and it slows down that carbohydrate digestion, which gives us better glucose absorption. These could be foods like oats and peas, barley, beans, carrots, apples, and pears, and citrus fruit. Studies indicate that a diet high in fiber helps to lower the risk of coronary heart disease, which is one of our risk factors for diabetes. Now we're going to look at sources in insoluble fiber. And this is the fiber that is present in all plant sources. It keeps you full longer. It contains carbs, but it's considered healthy carbs. This is the fiber that is not digested. It keeps our digestive tract clean and functioning, but it also does a very important job. It helps to feed the bacteria in our gut for a healthy gut. And I know we hear a lot about that lately, about a healthy gut and taking care of that bacteria. Insoluble fiber and fiber in general helps to balance our gut health and the microbiome. It's necessary for healthy digestion. However, this fiber, insoluble fiber, passes through. It doesn't dissolve in liquid, but it keeps our digestive tract functioning well. You'll find insoluble fiber in cabbage and green beans, cucumbers, potatoes and beans, corn bran, wheat bran, and whole wheat flour. So I wanted to explore a little bit more here about fiber. And we say that it slows down digestion, it gives you lots of volume in your food, it keeps you feeling full for longer. But if we look at what 500 calories looks like in our tummy, look at the difference between fats and fruits and vegetables. So that fiber, those fruits and vegetables are going to fill us up and give us lots of bulk. They're going to keep us full. So look at what 500 calories looks like. It's a little bit of oil, a little bit of cheese, a little bit of meat. But then we get into our grains and our beans and our fruits and veggies. And that's where all of that fiber lives. And it helps to fill us up and keep us full. I like to eat a salad for lunch every day. And the reason I eat a salad for lunch every day is it keeps me full till dinner. And I don't spend the afternoon feeling hungry and eating candy that we love to have at our office. As long as I feel full, I'm okay. And so adding those fruits and vegetables and those whole grains and beans helps us get the volume we need to stay full. So what is the right amount of carbs? Well, this comes from getting good meal planning. Remember, we said to work with your dietitian or certified diabetes educator, but also everybody's individual. There's no one size that fits all. Carbohydrate needs are determined by your age and your activity level, but we aim for half of our calories from carbs. And we want to keep it the same amount for each meal. So eat the same amount of carbs for each meal, snack. And then I gave you an example of how to figure out what half your calories and carbs means. So if you're eating 1,800 calories per day, 900 would come from carbs. And 1 gram of carbohydrates equals 4 calories. So if we divide the 900 calories by 4, that would give us 225 grams of carbohydrates a day. And then that would be divided into your meals and snacks and beverages. Counting carbohydrates, they're measured in grams, and you have to look at the nutrition facts label. You can find total carbs. They're right down there on the label. It says total carbohydrates, 37 grams. That's what we're looking for when we look at the label. Remember that for diabetes meal planning, you're probably going to be converting carbs into carb servings. And we'll get into that in the next slide, but to give you a hint, 15 grams of carbs is 1 carb serving. And remember that a serving of food isn't always the same as what we think. And the example I'll give you here is a small baked potato. So it's a small baked potato. For us, it's one serving. But when we're counting carbs, it contains 30 grams of carbs and it's counted as 2 carb servings. So that little potato fitting in our hand, we think, yep, that I'm going to put on my plate. It's a serving, but it counts instead of 1 carb serving that we might think about, it counts as 2. So you really have to look at your grams of carbs and look at your labels. And then you might have learned about or be working on converting to carb servings. And that's when we add up the total grams of carbs on that nutrition label and we divide it by 15. So, for example, if something was 45 grams of carbs, we would divide it by 15 and it would equal 3 carb servings that we would count into our meal. And here we have a little chart that goes from 15 to 60 and 1 to 4 carb servings. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys look at this. And what I want you to try to do is I want you to add up how many grams of carbs you find, and then add it into the chat box. So I'm going to give you a minute. So go through and look at the grams of carbs and add it up and then put that into the chat box. I'm seeing a couple come in. Thank you, Kim and Laura and Lee. Mary, thank you. Vanessa, great, great. And you're right on. So it's 51 grams of carbohydrates. And that would be a typical breakfast. It's some toast with peanut butter, some yogurt with berries and walnuts. So that's a very healthy, nutritious breakfast. And for meal planning and counting our carbs, that would fit right in. And that would be 3.5 carb servings. All right, here comes lunch. So this time, I'm going to have you guys look at the carbs, add up your grams, and see if you can figure out how many carb servings this lunch is. Thank you, Cynthia. And Lee, I see yours. Thank you. You guys are right on. You're following me right along. Great job. So remember, you can round it up. And this equaled 66 grams of carbs, which we rounded up to 4.5 carb servings. So great job. You're following right along with me. And this was a typical lunch, right? Turkey sandwich with some lettuce and tomato, some vegetable soup, an apple, and some milk. And so that fits right in to that carbohydrate counting. And then for dinner, we have some salmon and rice, some broccoli, carrots, peach, and there's that 0-calorie beverage, that unsweetened tea. Remember, if you're adding in those beverages, you have to count them. We ended up here right where we should be, 65 grams of carbs and 4 carb servings. And so when you're doing carb counting, you're going to spread it over your meals and you're going to stick within those guidelines that you get from your nutrition education. We want to look, when we're looking for carbs, the other thing I want to remind you of is look at the serving size on the nutrition facts label. This package here, there's 8 servings in the container. So we can't eat it all. 1 serving was 37 grams of carbs. So really explore those nutrition labels and get to know where all of that information is. The other thing to mention quickly is watch out. Watch out for those hidden carbs. So sugar-free, diabetic, fat-free, no sugar added. These can still contain carbohydrates. And so you still have to look at your label. They're not considered free foods. And also, they have to put the calories somewhere, right? So it may be a food that's high in fat and calories and low in sugar, but to get the taste, they added the extra fat. So you kind of have to look and see if you're going to compare it towards the food that is the natural food, or something like that. It might be easier just to eat the regular food. So you have to really look at that. This comes from good planning with your dietitian, and learning those hidden carbs. And remember that this can get really confusing. And so we want to make sure that when you're working with your meal plan, that you really focus on these, because you can go down the aisle and buy a whole bunch of sugar-free items and think, okay, I could just eat whatever I want. You still have to look at the serving and those carbs. So we can only tell if something has carbs by reading the nutrition facts label. Okay, we're going to move into portion sizes. And the one thing that I want to emphasize is portion size and serving size are different. Portion is the amount we eat, and serving is the specific amount they recommend. So you might say, I ate 2 slices of bread for my sandwich, but the serving was 1 slice. Okay. So you have to look at your label at those serving sizes. And when you're at home, measure. Get out your measuring cups, your measuring spoons, get out a scale, measure your servings. I know I was very surprised to learn that in the morning when I make my cup of coffee and I add in my coffee creamer, I thought I was adding about a tablespoon of coffee. It was about 3 tablespoons when I measured it. And that's a big difference, right? So sometimes we're not even aware unless we measure. And then you're not always able to get out your measuring cups and measuring spoons. Like if you're eating out, the CDC has this great graphic on how to estimate portions that are served. And so you can look, the palm of your hand could be an example of a serving of meat, a 3-ounce serving of meat. And when you're out eating, you might have an 8-ounce serving of something, right? So look at your hand and estimate that's going to be that portion that you're going to eat. And then your thumb, which is number 2, if you look at the numbers here, your thumb from the tip to the base is about 1 ounce, and that could be like an ounce of cheese or a cheese stick. Your fist is about 1 cup, and that could be some fruit. And then your hand is your own measuring cup, and that's about, when you cup your hand, about a half a cup. And a half a cup could be some pretzels or some nuts. A tablespoon is your thumb from the tip to the first joint. And I say that's like a serving of peanut butter or a serving of salad dressing. And then a teaspoon, which is number 6, if we look up at the top at your fingertip, your tip to your first joint can help you estimate a serving of butter. So keep this in mind when you're out and you're not sure how much is served on the plate, because we're going to get into dining out, that you can use your hand as an estimator for portions. And real quick, some of the tips I wanted to share with you for meal planning is to prep ahead. Focus on your meal plan and then take some time over the weekend or 1 day a week and really work on getting things ready. I love to open up my fridge and see all the healthy choices in there. I prep on Sundays and get everything ready so I can just pull it out and put it together. And then eat to feel great. So eat food in its most natural form. Look in your serving sizes and measure. Add a serving of activity. Be accountable to yourself. And then we'll talk later in our series about flavoring, but flavor with less fat, salt, and sugar. So here we come to the last part, which is called the eat it part, the dining out. And I found this picture. Doesn't it look delicious? Would you order that when you went out to dinner? I definitely would love to see that on the menu. We've got our high fiber, we got our vegetables, There's some, it looks like some fish there with some lemon. And then you can use your hand to estimate the portion of the fish. It might be a little more than what we need. Remember, portions at restaurants are 3 to 4 sizes larger than what we eat. And so dining out can be very healthy and fun, but don't abandon your plan. Studies show that we tend to eat more when we're served more. And so know your portions and have it under control for proper weight management and blood glucose. Look for the clue words to healthy choices and look for grilled, poached, roasted, garden fresh, steamed, broiled, light, or baked. And these are words that are associated with healthier options. Remember, Mary Liz talked with us about SMART that were discussed. Looking for these words helps us stick to their goals of that habit change. And then be aware of clue words that are going to tell you there's extra calories added here. It could be butter or buttery, gravy, bread and biscuits, or creamy or cheesy. It could be fried or breaded, but these are all words to be aware of that added extra calories to our foods. And of course, yes, they taste good, but we could probably find something that tastes just as great that's got those healthier clue words that we just saw. So I wanted to share some suggestions on dining out at some of the most popular restaurants. And I chose Chinese, Italian, and Mexican because most people have these options available in their cities or towns. And if we look at what to order when we're out, if we're at a Chinese restaurant, go easy on the fried foods like the egg rolls and the crab rangoon, very moderate amounts, and then watch the sauces, which are very high in sugar, like sweet and sour sauce, and then the fried rice. And instead, you could try steamed rice, or this picture is steamed dumplings, which are delicious. You could order stir-fried vegetables. Remember how it fills us up? So we're full and we're not wanting to eat all that other stuff. You could order an egg dish. And the one thing to remember with meal planning is the carbs are found in that steamed rice. You're probably going to get about a cup of rice. That's probably 1 scoop that they use in the kitchen, but a third of a cup is 1 carb serving. So there may be a lot of people eating the full serving of rice at the table, but you're going to have to remember what your meal planning includes. Go easy on sauces and ask for low sodium. Monitor your portion size and remember that 1 cup is a serving size, and takeout usually serves 4 people. With Italian, we talked about the Mediterranean diet, so this is perfect. You can pick bruschetta or grilled calamari. Pick the seafood that's cooked in a wine sauce like mussels. Pick minestrone soup or a vegetable primavera or marinara, and then limit less of the bread and butter, the fried foods and fried cheeses, and the creamy sauces. And just to give you an example, fettuccine Alfredo, when it's served in the restaurant, comes with 1,000 calories and 97 grams of carbs. And so be very careful. Just pick something you can enjoy that's that healthier choice. And then monitor your portions. 4 cups of pasta are a normal portion size in restaurants. Looking at Mexican food, limit those fried food and those chips. The beans, if they have vegetarian beans, that's great. But if there's the beans your grandma made in the kitchen with the lard, you're going to want to limit a little bit. Cheesy dips and sour cream, watch out for in higher fat meats like chorizo. And instead, order guacamole and fresh salsa. Try the black bean soup or the fajitas with grilled fish and chicken and shrimp. And then remember that 2 corn tortillas is the same as 1 tortilla. So you can have 2 corn tortillas instead of 1 flour tortilla. Sorry, 2 corn tortillas is the same as 1 flour tortilla. I think I mixed that up a little bit. Monitor your portions and the sides. These come with beans. The dinners come with beans, Mexican rice, cheese, guacamole, sour cream, and a side of tortillas, and they all add up quickly. And that's after you have the chips on the table, and those chips go quickly. Those chips we eat unconsciously, moving our hand to our mouth and back and forth, and before you know it, the basket's empty. And what happens? You get more chips. And so we unconsciously don't realize how much we have when we're out. Pizza and fast food. Start with a salad. Order a thin crust, add extra vegetables, and then stop after 1 or 2 slices. And for fast food, choose broiled or grilled or roasted sandwiches. Ask for sauce on the side or hold the sauce. Baked instead of fried. And you can substitute things with fruit or side salads. And instead of creamy dressings, you can pick a vinaigrette dressing. The one thing with the chicken sandwich here is the bun is 28 grams of carbs for a serving. So maybe just have half the bun and use lettuce for the top. Did I really eat all that? Did that really happen when I went out to dinner? It happens. Remember, restaurants give us 3 to 4 servings in a portion size. It's delicious. You may have had a cocktail and you're at a bit of like, whatever, I'm going to eat it, right? You want to look at what you're eating and you want to add it up, and it adds up more quickly than we realize. So remember that you're going to be eating out again. This isn't the last time we're out. Don't eat with your eyes, meaning that everything looks good and you might over order things. You can share with somebody or split. And then you might have to take home up to 2/3 of that meal, depending on how large the portion is. But ask for a take home container and use your portion estimator. Use your hand to estimate how much on your plate you're going to be eating for that meal. And be accountable to yourself and to your health. One thing I found is a great reference, and it's called the Calorie King. And this is a guide that I keep with me in my purse. And it includes all of the different restaurants and all of the foods. It includes how many calories, how many fat and carbs. And it's packed full of great nutrition information. We use this when we teach our diabetes prevention program. And it's a really good reference to take with you if you need to know what to order that's going to keep you in your meal plan limits. Okay, and to finish up, remember to choose it and count it and eat it. Healthy eating will look different to everyone. It will reflect your personal preferences, your values, tradition, culture, and your budget. But balance is the key. And make your food choices based on sound scientific research-based information. Follow recommendations from your dietitian or your certified diabetes educator, and start small and continue to add healthy options and limit less healthy options as you go along. Add in activity. The website Move Your Way has a lot of great recommendations for active lifestyle. You can visit Choose My Plate from the USDA. Keep making your goals, those SMART goals that Mary Liz talked about, and then build healthy meals. So start small and set goals and be accountable. All right, now we'll see if there are any questions.
All right, thank you, Susan. We do have a couple of questions. One is, would grape juice work instead of wine if you don't drink alcohol?
I think you would have to look at the carbs, but the dark color is what they're looking at. So that dark red would be good. You're just going to have to look at the serving size to
Okay.
substitute it out.
Right. And then her sub question was, can you just focus on the water instead?
Anytime, yes. You
Okay.
can drink that water. You don't have to order wine or juice or anything. That's just an option in the Mediterranean diet.
Right. If non-soluble carbs do not break down to sugar, why count them?
So let me just pull up. So our insoluble sources of carbs still contain calories, and they still contain they still they still contain carbs that we have to count, and your body still processes them, and so you will get some calories from them.
Right.
However,
And
the fiber in that food flows through.
right, because we're talking about the whole food. So,
Yes,
for example, the non-soluble carbohydrates in, the fibrous stems of broccoli, for example,
yes. So
we don't extract that fiber out. We eat the whole piece of broccoli, and so that's why you
yeah,
count the whole thing.
yep.
And then, what seasonings do you recommend for meats?
Oh gosh, well, it depends on what your taste is that you like. I love to use garlic and lemon. I use vinegars, and then I use a lot of fresh herbs, especially during the summertime in my garden. I love thyme and oregano and rosemary. Sometimes I'll marinate things a little bit with a little olive oil and put it in the fridge and let it marinate with the spices. So yeah, I do a lot of different spices. Just explore and have fun with the taste.
How about, is there a good pre-made salad dressing?
So you can find a lot of great light salad dressings. Remember, the one thing that we have to do is we have to look at the label. And you have to look, when you look at those carbs and you compare them, you're going to see the difference. And for salad dressing, you can also explore at making your own. So using a little bit of vinegar and some lemon, a little bit of um, mustard, adding some pepper. Those are all great ways to explore and add those tastes. And I like stuff that tastes really like kind of strong. I like vinegary kind of things. But you can explore and make your own salad dressings as well.
All right, and then it looks like we have one final question. I was told that you subtract the grams of fiber from the carbs on the label to get the total carbs. Is that correct?
So I believe that you're talking about the net carbs, and that is not normally needed from everybody who's counting carbs. You for net carbs, you do subtract the fiber from the carbs, but that is used for people who are on insulin therapy and they're managing their diabetes with like an insulin to carb ratio. So it's not really necessary that in our normal diet and meal planning that we would have to do that. That would be something that you would learn from your registered dietitian or certified diabetes educator.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much, Susan. That was so comprehensive and such good practical information. And remember, folks, you're going to be receiving an email following today's presentation that will include a survey. Please fill out that survey, and then you will receive a follow-up email with today's handouts. And again, we'd like to remind you that we do have a texting program. It's called Extending Wellness. And so if you'd like to sign up for that, just go to goillinois.edu/wellness tips, and you can sign up for that. Again, we thank you for joining us today. And as we said, this was number 2 in a series. Next week, same time, same station, we will be discussing making the most of your resources. Any parting words, Susan?
So thank you for everybody, and I hope you look forward to the handout and that you're back with us again next week. So thank you for joining.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, ladies.
Our pleasure.